In today's video, I'm going to cover how to use the block editor inside WordPress. The block editor has been around for a long time, but millions of people discover WordPress for the first time, and you might be one of those people, and you might be wondering how to use the block editor, what is the functionality, and how do you create beautiful looking pages, and what can you do with the block editor. So in this video, I'm going to cover everything from start to finish. It might be a little longish video. So what you can do is use the timestamps to go to a specific section so that you can find out the information you're looking for a little faster. So let's head to my screen here, and simply this is the block editor you see here. And when you create a page or a post on your WordPress website, this is what you'll be greeted with. Some of the things might look different, the colors, the default fonts that you see in the placeholders, depending on the theme you're using. I'm using the WordPress default theme, so that change is completely all right. Now, when you start using the block editor for the first time, it's a complete blank canvas. Now, you see a couple of placeholders already here. You see the add title and you see type or option to choose a block. Now, whenever you start creating a post, the first line which you see here is always the title. So if I just click here and type something, so I'll say this is the title, this will always become the title of the page or the post that we are working with. Just to give you an idea, if I save a draft of this and I go to the actual page preview I've opened up, I'll refresh this. So you can see here, this is the title which I just added here. So when I make changes here, I'll go back to the actual preview of the page, show you how it looks like for the users, so you can understand whatever I'm doing on the screen and how it works. Now, when you start out, the first title we already added. Next thing what you can do is just start typing something on the screen here. So if I start saying WP beginner is the best, this creates a default block on your WordPress website, or specifically this post, which is the paragraph block. Now, understanding how the blocks interface or how blocks work is critical to using the block editor. And blocks are actually very simple to understand and visualize how they work. You have a lot of different blocks available to you, and you can stack those blocks, connect those blocks, and make them work together like kind of Lego blocks or Lego blocks that you can just stack on top of each other to create a certain output. So in this case, the default block when we start typing on the screen is the paragraph block. So this is the paragraph block that is being added on the screen. How do you know it's a paragraph block? I'll explain that in a second. When we want to add other types of content on our page or post, we need to add different kinds of blocks so that we can replicate certain functionality that we have in our head, and we want to create the same functionality right here on the post itself. So how do you create or how do you add new blocks to the page? There are technically three different ways to do so. The first thing you will see is there's a plus icon here, and there's a plus icon here, and there's a third easiest way which I usually use when you're familiar with the blocks to add blocks on the screen. So when you click this plus button, it will give you this options. It will give you a search box. It will show you the most popular block types, and it'll give you an option to browse all. Now let me just read out the names of the blocks that you see here. The paragraph block, which we already added, the heading block, the image block, gallery block, list block, and quote block. If I click browse all, it is similar to like me clicking this button, which is also called the block inserter. So if I click the browse all option, you'll see the toggle menu from the left opens up. And this gives you option to see all the blocks and add them to your website. And there is an overwhelmingly large number of blocks, but don't worry, you don't need to understand and remember every single block. Just the top, I say 20% is good enough. And if you go here, you'll see the few blocks here are the same ones we saw when we used the add block shortcut. So the paragraph block, the heading block, the list block, the quote block, and then you also have the classic block, the table block. And I'm going to give you a preview of all these blocks and how you can utilize these blocks to create certain looks and certain pages. Let's start with the most basic one, the heading block. I've already added a paragraph block here. Let's add a heading here, and it will automatically, as you click it, or you can drag and drop it here as well. If you want to add it somewhere in the middle of existing blocks, you can do that as well. So you saw here, I just added, dragged and dropped it and added it. So now I have two different blocks on the screen. Now, this might happen to you. So how do you actually delete a block? What you do, whenever you click a block, whenever you've selected a block, you'll see a pop-up menu just on top. Now, this is separate, or this is unique for different block types. So every block will have a unique set of options. For example, this is the paragraph block. So they have certain set of options. In the heading block, you see the options are slightly different. Now, if you want to delete a block, all you have to do is go to the three-dot menu, I'll give you all these options and explain some of these options. You can just click delete and then that block is deleted. Now, let me add a heading here. So I'll say this is a heading. And now as you see, since I added the heading block before I typed in, it is now a heading block and I'm able to add a heading on the page. Now, one more thing, or I say one more important thing you should know about how to use the block editor is the settings options. Now, when I started the page, you saw that this option, or there's nothing to the right side of the page. But when you start using the block editor for the first time, you might see a set of options on the right hand side. I purposely did that so that I can explain to you how to enable or disable, or I say just toggle the feature on and off if you want to customize your page, if you want to see a full page preview of your page. So if you go to the top right hand corner, and I'll just highlight that on screen, this is the button which signifies that, hey, do you want to enable the settings or you want to see the settings so that you can customize them. So if I click them right now, you'll see that you have this kind of options available on the screen. Now, in this option, you'll have the post tab and the block tab. And the post tab, let me talk about the post tab first. It deals with all the settings related to the actual post itself. So the URL, what's the status, and all the different settings about the post are here. So let me cover some of those first, and then I'll explain to you what the block settings are, how do we customize them, and what are these different options available in different kinds of blocks. So in the post block, you have the first option. I say collapse all of these so you can see different kinds of options. In the summary tab, we have the first few set of options. You have the visibility. So if this is a public document, you have published this, you can make it public. And if you click it, you can make it private or password protected as well. You can also change the schedule of the publish. So example, I have not published this post, but I can change this behavior. If I change this, go here and say I want to schedule this post to go live at a certain date, then even if I save it, it will not go live. It will automatically become public at a certain date. I can schedule it. And you also have the template options, which is a little out of the scope of this video. But you can think about this template is the template of the post, which is the single post. Then also we can change the URL or the slug of the post itself. So if I click here, I'll see what is the permalink of the post. So example, I added the title and it automatically pulls the title in to create permalink. But let's say if you want to change this, make it simple, I can just change it here and this will change the title of the post. And you can see a live preview here as well. And if you click on it, it will actually open up your post in a new tab with this title. So if you want to change the title of the post at any point of time, this is how you do it. So you can also stick this to the top of the block, which is again a different feature. And then you have, if you're working with authors, you can make it pending review so that some administrator can actually review it and publish it. This is the post summary block. Then you have the revisions block. If you make certain revisions to your blog post, you will see a kind of variety of revisions here. And you can see in restore older versions. Going to the categories, you can assign a category to this post if you have categories. This is a brand new website, so there are no categories, but I can click and add a new category here. You can select a parent category and then assign the category to the post here. And I can go to the tags option and do the same thing. Categories and tags are the default taxonomies in WordPress. You can create more taxonomies if you like, but these are the default ones. Then you can add the featured image here. Sometimes people think that the featured image has to be added right in the post area, but that will usually duplicate your featured image. This is the right way to add the featured image. So if you have an image already on your computer, all you have to do is click it and just select it from your computer. I'll show you how to do that in later part of the video, but you can add a featured image. Then you can also add excerpt of the post here, which is just a shortened version of the first X number of characters of a post, which appears in the, let's say, a blog feed or the RSS feed or some other areas of website, which entices the users to actually click and read the entire piece. So you can add an excerpt here if you want to. And then in the discussion section, you can allow the comments if you want to enable comments and allow pingbacks and trackbacks. This is a very less used feature now, but comments are important. If you want to enable comments on the post, this will not show up on pages, only on posts. So you can enable or disable comments. Now, this is all about the post settings. So in this section, I already mentioned that you'll have the post settings, but you'll also have the block settings. Now, if I click outside all these blocks here, you'll still see that the block settings is still persistent. But if I click on the block settings, you'll see it will tell me that, hey, no block is selected, because this section will be populated with the settings of the particular block that I have actually selected. For example, if I go here and select the paragraph block, you'll instantly see this section is now populated with the settings of the paragraph block. And now you can also double check that, hey, if you click on a block, you can instantly see what kind of block it is. it's usually previewed or shared here in the top section here. So going back to the options of the paragraph block, let me just explain some of the options available in the paragraph block so that you can understand how you can customize the use of general basic text that you can add to your website. So inside the paragraph block, you see the default options you can see here are the color, the typography, and dimensions and advanced. Inside the color options, you can change the color of the text. So if I click here on text, you see there are some pre-built color, or I say color palette given to you, which is also called as color style. So if I, let's say, click this green color, now the text gets this color. Now I can change the background color as well, because obviously this is not the best contrast to see the text on. So what I'll do is, instead of clicking these default options, I'll go and click the color options here and pick a dark gray background to add here. And this will give the text a little bit of contrast. Now, one great feature about WordPress is that if you, let's say, choose a color combination that doesn't have enough contrast and it'll be hard to read, WordPress will give you an automatic warning that this color combination may be hard to read. So this is a great set of warnings that you can understand. And then just if you change the contrast to a decent level, then that warning automatically goes away. So this is how you change the background color and the text color by just clicking the options in the block. And if you notice that apart from these options, you also have a three-dotted menu, which I'll talk about when we come to the typography options. So in the typography options, you have some predefined sizes that you can instantly switch between. So if I click the M for medium, you have the medium applied. If I click the L, the large setting will be applied. And if I want to customize, or if you want to customize this specifically to, let's say, precision, you can click the custom size option here and then change this to something that you like, completely up to you. And if you go to the typography options in the three-dotted menu here, you'll notice something interesting. Many of the typography settings are not hidden, but I say under a sub-menu. So if you see, if you want to change the font family or appearance size or line height or letter spacing or decoration or some other options, then all you have to do is just go to the three-dotted menu first. So let's say I go to the font family, and now I have the option of choosing a different font. Now these are the pre-built different fonts available to us, but WordPress is possibly working on a solution where you can upload Google Fonts directly to WordPress. So you can actually add more and more fonts directly to your website, which will be easy to do. So let's say if I choose Cardo, so you can instantly see the different font applied here. If I choose Inter, the different fonts applied here. If I do this, you can see it here, and instantly the changes are reflected. Now, one interesting thing about is whatever setting you choose will have a check mark here, and it will be added to the typography section. And if you want to reset it, you can always go back and reset it. So, for example, if I click the line height, you see the line height is now different. I can customize this, and once I am happy or not happy, I can go back and just uncheck it, so it will go back and be reset to the default options. So this is one, I say, hidden thing that many people might miss when starting out customizing their WordPress website. Inside the dimensions options, you have margins and paddings. So you want to add a custom amount of spacing around the text using margins and paddings, you can add it here. So if I add a little bit of padding here, you can see on the top and bottom, I can instantly set a custom space around this section. And now this is a section which has a little more space around it. Again, this is completely up to you if you want to add it. What I'll do is just go back and remove it just to make it default. And in the advanced section, you have the HTML anchor. You can add additional CSS classes or name the block a certain way. Now, this is the section where I covered everything about the block settings for the paragraph block. Every block that we have has two sets of options. So one set of options is visible here, but the second set of options is visible here. Now you see, in this section, you have all these options. Now, some of these options will not affect the block, but might change the block or move the order or do something else. For example, if I want to take this text and I want to center it or justify the text orientation, then I can just click here and it will give me an option to align the text to the left, the center, or the right. And this set of settings is not available here. So coming to, so there's a distinction between both these settings. You have to understand, and I say, the more you practice it, the more you use it, it will become very easy to remember subconsciously that, hey, this set of setting is actually in this section of this area. I can just instantly go there. So you can also see here that I can actually change some of the settings that are also here. So if I go to the text decoration options, you can probably just bold the text here, which you can also do from here, and you can make it italic as well. So some settings do overlap, but not every settings overlap here. And of course, if you click the more options here, you can see all the other options, which is maybe if all were populated to the menu, it will become too large. So there is a set of options in the toggle area as well. And if you click the three dotted menu, this will bring you to the regular options, which almost every block will have, because this is not related to the visual identity or visual style of the block, but more has to do with how you want to customize your page. You want to delete a block, duplicate a block, and all those settings. So we've covered the basics about the first block, which is the most important, or usually I say most used block, the paragraph block. You also have the heading block, and I showed you have tons of different blocks. So let me show you an alternate way to add blocks to your page, and also different set of settings that WordPress now supports on your website. So let's talk about the next important block, which is typically something that you will use a lot on your WordPress website, which is the image block. So as I was demonstrating earlier, if you click, or if you have not selected any block on the page, you'll see this block edition option here, and also this option. But there's a third way, which is, in my opinion, the fastest way. And if you get the hang of it, you will be very, very quick when adding blocks to your page. So all you have to do is make sure that you are in a blank section and your cursor is highlighted. And instead of typing regular text, which will start or create a default paragraph block, you have to start with a / to choose any set of blocks that you can search for. So if I click / on my keyboard, it actually initiates a search. So if I type in the name of the block that I want to add here, for example, image, then it will automatically search for an image block. You can see image, featured image, cover block, and there's so many options here, but we're interested in the image block. So let's click the image block, and that gives an option to either upload an image or choose the media library or insert from a URL. So what I'll do is I'll just choose the media library, and it doesn't have an image right now. So I'll just drag one from my computer and add it here. And instantly you see you have the media upload options. You can do a lot of things here, but we can do the same things, most of the things in the block editor as well. So I'll just show you how to do that. So if I add an image here, now again, there's two sets of options appear. Inside the block options, when the image is selected, you have the block sections. And now inside the block sections too, you have two sets of options. And one has to do with the settings, and one has to do with the appearance, which is called, or the name in WordPress is commonly used, styles. And then you have the set of options here, which we'll be talking about. So I'll go a little in depth with images, because images is very useful. A lot of people want to use it. And then we'll quickly skim through some other blocks so that you can know that, oh, this is how you do stuff. This is how you add certain things to your website. So inside the image block, we'll go with the block settings first. The first side is the block, and we'll talk about the settings. The first thing you can do is add an alternative text. Now this is important for accessibility and SEO. So you should be doing this with all images. So I'll say man on hilltop. That's one alternate text you can use. Then you change the aspect ratio here. So if I change the aspect ratio, you can see a different kind of image being used in different aspect ratios. So that's something you can customize here. So if you want to have a certain kind of block style, you can use it. Let's stick with the original for now, just example. And you can also customize it based on what you want as a custom dimensions. So you can make the width and height a certain way, and then you can choose the resolution of this as well. So you can have a full size image, thumbnail, or medium. So sometimes you'll have divisions between images, or sometimes you want to use a full size image, sometimes you don't. So then this is how you do it. So in the settings side, you just have the basic options. But if you click the three dotted menu, once again, you can reset some of the settings, reset all of them, enable or disable some of these settings, and all the good stuff. So make sure whenever you are looking at a setting of the block, also check the three dotted menu, because you might find some hidden gems there as well. Inside the styles option, it all has to do with how you want the look and the cosmetic feel, or let's say the appearance of the image to be. So right now we have two default styles built in. So right now you see the image has rectangular corners, which is typical for any image. But the new trend, or I say a recent trend in the market, or I say with design, is rounded edges. If you see a phone, most icons you see on the phone will be rounded. So if you want to give a rounded appeal to your images, just have to click the rounded option, and this will give it a round appeal. So it looks very nice. Inside the filters, this was a more recent update, as a couple of years ago, where duotone filters were introduced. What you can do is similar to how you can add filters on your images on Instagram, you can add a certain look to your images inside WordPress. So if I click the duotone option, you'll have a few different options to choose from. For example, if I choose this option, so it'll give it a kind of a tint to my image. And what you can do is, since it is it's a standard filter here, you can apply this to all the images on your website. It will give you completely as a uniform look to all your images and your entire website. So if I add this, I'll just quickly demonstrate how you can see different kinds of filters exist here. So I'll just keep this one for now. And now once again, we can go to the three-dotted menu and you can reset it if you don't want to. Inside the borders and shadows, you can add a border and a shadow to your image as well. And once again, in the three-dotted menu, you have the radius option as well. In the radius option, you can customize how rounded you want the edges to be. So if I start customizing it here, instantly you see if it's 0, this the rectangle images or the images edges are completely rectangular. But if I customize it slightly, you can see now we have a slightly rounded edges. So you can actually customize it here, or if you want to unlink it and have different edges differently rounded, you can do that as well. For example, if I say if I want to do this just the top right being rounded, rest not being rounded, we can actually do that as well. It doesn't look good, so I'll just click this and enable, let's say uncheck this and just make everything 16 because I think that looks much better. So let's stick with that. We'll link that together. And in the border, again, we have similar options. First, we have to choose a border color because there's no color, you won't see the border. So let's say if I add this orange color here, and of course you can click here and choose a different, let's say, color style as well. That's completely up to you. I'm just giving you a demonstration. Then we can just link it and change the border style or colors. And now we have a border. So if I now go here and I say clear this, now you see the duotone filter being applied, or if I remove the duotone filter, you'll see the real colors of the border. So the filters, or I say the border that we apply, are affected by the duotone filter. So this is a very thick border. So I'll just change this to something a little more nuanced, something like this. And if you want to add a shadow here as well, I believe it is possible as well. You just have to go into the three-dotted menu and enable it. And then you can have some preset styles to how you want the drop shadow to be. So if I click this, or let's try something else. Let's try this one. I think that looks good. Even this one should look good. And I think the border can be removed in this case. So we'll just remove the border. And now look at this. It looks beautiful as an image on the screen with a little bit of shadow and rounded edges. And all of this is possible right inside WordPress. So these were the block options for images, but you have some other options here as well. So let's quickly go through all these options. So I have the first option, which is alignment. Again, similar to how we align the text, you can align images differently to your website. And you also have the duotone filters appearing here. And here you can actually customize the duotone filter. So if I just click this button here, I can actually choose a color for my duotone filter. So let's say if I want to add a greenish tint, and then the second color I can choose to be something adjacent to green, let's say yellow. And it's way too strong, so let's just dial it down a bit. And we'll just do this. And oops, I'm not a great designer. So just giving an idea that you can actually completely customize the shadow colors and the highlights colors, and this will completely change the look of your images. Since I didn't do a very good job, I'll just clear it. And then we can also add a link here to the image. So if someone clicks on a link or somebody clicks on an image, it can actually take them to a certain page. You can also crop images. This is very useful. If you want to crop your images, you can actually do this right here, and you can apply and cancel if you don't like it. And you also can add captions or text over images. This is a very useful feature. So let's say if I click this option here, it actually becomes a cover block. And this is the next block I was going to cover anyway. So this is the block which allows you to have images and then add text on top of your images so that you can have a nice little title appearing on with the background appearing as a text. So I say, let's say if I add here, feel nature. Let's say if I add this title here, and if you didn't have all these things, now this is a good look for a cover block. And similar to how we have settings for blocks, we have settings for the cover block as well. So by the way, you don't have to convert images to cover blocks. You can just add the cover block separately as well. So let me first demonstrate that to you. Once again, I'll click on an empty area with the cursor blinking. I'll type /, I'll type cover, and I'll click cover. And now I can go to the media library and I can add another image. Let's try a different one. And I'll choose this. And now we have the cover block available for this image. So I'll say nature heals. So now I have the cover block added here. And you'll notice something interesting. If you click on the text inside the cover block, it actually is just a paragraph block. So you have the same options available to change the background color and change the text, even change the size in not considering the fact that it's inside a cover block. So that's pretty cool. If you click the image area, then you come to the cover block where you can change the images. Now, a couple of things which are a little different with images and cover blocks is you have few customizable options. So you have the content width and alignment parts, then you have the fixed background option, which gives it a parallax effect. So example, if I click here, now if I scroll, you see the image stays in position, and as I scroll in, it just scrolls past. So it's called the parallax effect. It's pretty cool. On some images it looks good, sometimes it's not. So you will have to make and choose where you want to add this. And you can also add a point of focus by using this option here. So let's say, for example, I want people to focus on the sun. So I'll just drag it like this, and I can change the focal area around to make sure that I can add the image appropriately. So depending on how wide your image is, how big of a resolution you have with the images, you might be able to move things around quite a lot, but this is how you use a cover block to actually customize it. And like once again, you have percentage options for the same. If you want to specify a specific percentage, let's say the rule of thirds or something like this, you can actually use percentage. You can add alt text here as well. And the advanced tabs, you have HTML anchor and CSS classes similar to images. And the styled option, you will see the same options. You can change the styles for the text, so text styles, heading styles, and overlay. So if I change the overlay and I can go to gradient as well, I can add some gradient overlays as well. Then you have the overlay opacity. If I change the overlay opacity to 100, you'll see it completely becomes like a regular block. So this is where you customize how strong of a overlay effect you want. So let's say, for example, you have white text and you want to go here and you want to ensure that a black overlay is added. So once you add a black overlay, then you can decide how dark you want the image to be so that the text actually shines through. So this is something you can do. And in the same option, you can go to the gradient route and add a gradient, a radial gradient. You have all these options. So plenty of options to design the perfect looking, let's say, cover block of your choice. And rest of the things we already covered. We have the duotone filters, we have the typography size, the padding, margins, spacing, aspect ratio for imaging, border radius, and also the border if you want to add a border. So this is all the basic stuff that you can do with the cover block. So we've covered the paragraph block, the heading block, the image block, the cover block. Now let's talk about something very, very basic that everyone needs to do on the website which is adding a link. So let's say, for example, I was writing an article on how to learn WordPress. So I can probably write on my website, the best way to learn WordPress is by going to wpbeginner.com. Now, in this case, if you see wpbeginner.com, if I save the post even, and if I go here and refresh the post, the wpbeginner.com is not a link. It's just a piece of text. So I cannot click, or users cannot click it to actually go to the website. So how do we add those links here? Let me just give you a quick demonstration. So inside the paragraph, all you have to do is select the text or piece of text that you want to add a link to, and then just hover over these options and you will have the link option. You can also use the keyboard shortcut, Control-K, which is faster in my opinion. You can click this button here, and then you can type either the name of an internal post. So you see right now there's a sample post already on the website. It's already showing me the option of linking to internally. But if I want to add the title, or I say type the URL, I can actually do this here. So I'll just type in wpbeginner.com, and now I can just click this button, submit, and it'll add this link here. Now, if I click the options again to edit, once again, if I go here, you'll notice once I'm clicking on the link, a pop-up menu opens here. I can copy the URL, I can remove the link, or I can edit the link. And inside the editing options, you can also make it open in a new tab and mark as no follow as well if you want to. Once I click save and save the draft, now if I go back, you'll notice now this is highlighted or underlined, and if I hover over it, the headline or link goes away. It's a typical sign for a link. And since I set up to or this to open in a new tab, if I click on this, it actually open a new tab which opens up wpBeginner. So this is how you add links to any piece of text. And the same thing can apply to images as well. If I go here and click this, you'll see not in the cover block, but in the image block. So I'll just probably delete this and just give you an example of an image block once again. So I'll just forward image. And if we choose the same image we had for the first example, now you see there's another option here to add a link to the entire image. So you can link to the image file, link to attachment page, or you can expand on link, or you can actually customize or as I send users to a specific URL as well. So for example, if I click expand on link, now if I save draft and if I refresh this page, you'll notice if I click on the link, it gives you a nice Lightbox effect. This is a very cool thing. It's a recent addition to WordPress, and this adds a very nice, beautiful animation to your website as well. So you can see this icon already displayed, but what you can also do is just customize this link to actually take users to any other page as well. So those are the kind of options you can customize on your WordPress website when it comes to blocks. So now that you know the basics of blocks, how to use them, and what kind of blocks exist, let me give you some examples on how you can organize your page better. Because right now on this post, we just have a title, a couple of pieces of text, and a couple of images. But on a typical long page on a website, you'll have tons and tons of elements, and it can become overwhelming or confusing to understand where the specific areas are done and how the page is organized. So I'll give you a couple of ideas on how to first overview the document and also organize things better on your website using a couple of different ways. So on the page itself where you're customizing this, or the post that you're customizing, you'll see this interesting option here. And this is a very powerful feature in my opinion. It's called the document overview. So if I click this option, you'll see a list of all the elements that are added to the page, right? You can see paragraph, heading, cover, paragraph, heading. Now to demonstrate this, the entire feature in a relevant way, in a more powerful way, first I'll close this and I'll do something interesting. So we have this title here, we have a heading here. Let me add a few different headings to the page and then I'll explain to you how this works. So what I'll do is I'll just type it in, another heading, and I'll say this is the third heading. And what I'll do is I'll click the heading block and just change the heading type to H4. And the next line I'll add is again a heading block, and I'll type this is the second heading. And once again, I'll click on this and I'll change it to an H3. Now let's go back to the document overview and I'll explain what the significance of this is and how you can utilize the document overview to not only understand your page, but also organize your page. So I'll go here, and inside the document overview, you can see the paragraph block. And if you click on a block, WordPress will instantly take you to that section instantly. So if I click the image, we are on the image. If I click the cover block, I'm on the cover block. If I click the heading, we can quickly navigate the post here. And I'll give you a nice, hierarchical view of, or say the chronological view of what the elements or what kind of blocks we've added to the page. So now you can see this is a heading. The second block I added was this is the third heading, and this is the third heading. Now, obviously, I added this intentionally out of order so I can demonstrate the next important feature inside document overview, which is organizing your blocks and moving them around. Now, there are a couple of ways of doing this. If you click on a block and you see all the settings here, you'll observe this 6 dotted menu. And if you hover your mouse over, if I zoom in on the screen, you might be able to see, but my mouse might disappear. But if you see, this is what I'm trying to explain to you. The 6 dot menu is called drag. And this is what you can do. You can just click and hold on it and just drag things around like this. And this is how you can reorder any of the blocks. And this works with everything. So if I hover over this, you see it also has the drag option. If I go here, it also has the drag option. So every single block will have the drag option, which you can use to drag things around and reorder them. So if I go back and say do this once again, and you'll see a nice blue highlight which will represent where you are actually placing the elements. You also have another option, which is just the arrows next to it. So if the arrow says move up and move down, and this is I'd say a more easier way if you just want to move one element up or down. So you click here and it takes it up, and you click down and it takes it down. And the same thing you can see reflected being here. I click it here, click it here. Now, my favorite way of organizing things is the document overview. Now, the same things we were doing here, you can also do it inside the document overview. And it's much faster because you can see the entire page structure here. So I'll give you an example. If I take the second heading here, click and drag it, and I can just take it around anywhere on the page. I can quickly drag it just below the paragraph block. And I can just do the same thing once again and bring it here. So this is how easy it is to quickly move things around and just place anything anywhere on the screen. And this is just one option of the document overview. we are currently working with the list view option. We also have the outline option, and the outline option is, I say, better to understand the structure of the page, and this is more for organization. So if I go to the outline, you'll see now what does this post have. So any kind of text based elements that you added, the hierarchy of those text based text will be shown here inside the outline block. And that's why I added a couple of blocks here, just to give this idea and representation here. So you see the title is the topmost in the hierarchy, then the H2, then the H3, then the H4. You can't move things around, even though it does look like it, but you can't move things around. You can definitely move things around here. In the outline block, you also see number of characters you've added, number of words, and how much time approximately it will take to read this blog post by a user. So this is all useful information where you can use the list view to organize things and do all sorts of nice stuff. Now, this is just the basics, right? We covered most of the things. Let me just cover some other additional blocks and what you can do with it, so you have a nice understanding of what is possible or what kind of blocks we can add to just do anything on our site, right? For example, if I go here, one of the common things that you'll need to add, or not need to add, but at least common things on website, is buttons. So you have a dedicated button block to just do that. So if I just type / once again, and I type BUTT, then you can see the buttons block appear here. And this will instantly, if I click on it, instantly add a button to the page. And once again, we have a lot of different options here. You can quickly find out what kind of options available are here. And inside the button options, in the block options, you have the width settings. If I make it 75, you can see it becomes huge. 100% covers the entire page, 50% covers. And then you can also justify it or center or make it full width, max width. That's completely up to you. All these options exist, so I can justify it in the center and vertical alignment. So everything can be customized. In the styles option is where you can change the look of the button. So let's just add something here. I'll say click me. And now this is the basic button that we have created on the site in a couple of seconds. Now, if I click this button and go to the style options, I can choose different styles pre-built, or I can customize them from scratch. So if I see, you have the fill options, which just gives you a demonstration here that's completely filled, and an outline is basically an outline. So you can choose what kind of option you want. And in the color options, you can change the background colors and the text. Once again, you have the pre-built theme, or predefined color styles, but you can go and choose different colors you like. For example, if I go here and choose a nice bright green color, of course, I'll change the text color to black as well. And now we have much more vibrant button appearing here on the screen, and looks much more enticing in my opinion. Going to the other options, we again have the same options that we can change with typography. You can make it large, so the text will become large. You can customize it. And again, we've already covered all these options. So you have the same options available here as well. Then you have the padding, margin, borders, everything. Everything we have already covered. So if I make it rounded, you can see the button becomes rounded. So you can see all the different elements or all the different blocks we add to the page have very kind of similar functionality. Whenever it comes to text, even if the text is inside a button, even if the text is on a cover block, it uses the same set of settings. You can change the font family, the size, the colors. So that's completely, once you understand it, it's easy to replicate and just do it multiple times. So that's how you do it. Now, about adding links to button, that's the most important part. So if I come here, button will also have the hover menu, which has the link option. And once again, I can type in, let's say, wpbeginner.com, and we'll instantly add this link here. And if I want to make it open in a new tab, once again, I can go here, open a new tab, save. And once it's done, let's save the post. We'll go back, refresh. I'll just show you how this beautiful button looks on the page. Once again, if I click, it'll take me to wpbeginner.com. So this is how you customize and use the blocks and the button block inside your WordPress website. So let's talk about a couple of additional important blocks that are very important for any kind of design work. And then I'll go into some other interesting concepts when it comes to blocks. And I'll show you some powerful features that will help you, use the block editor faster. So the first, block that I want to cover is the column block. It's absolutely important, and columns used to be a big problem when dealing with the classic editor, the old version of WordPress. So it's much easier when it comes to the block editor. So all you have to do to get started is type the / once again. And you can go to the option here. I just prefer to use the keyboard. So I type COL, and you see the columns option come up here. So if I type or click the columns, you'll have some predefined columns. You can have a 2-column layout, 3-column layout, and now different variations of that as well. Let's start with the 50-50 equal split columns. And what this does is create 2 blocks side by side. So you see 2 placeholders for blocks side by side. And I can add more than 1 block side by side. So let's say, for example, if I click here, I can add a block here. So I'll add the image block. So I'll click image and I'll say media library. And I'll just upload a new image here. And let's select the image and then we can just leave it here. And on the side, I'll just add a paragraph block. And inside the paragraph block, now I can describe the image. So I can say, or I can just do anything, right? Sometimes the layout of images or text on the screen is you have the image starting out and then you can add text to the side. So it's just a way to customize things. And if I click around and customize the settings here, if I'm able to click on the actual column layout. And once again, this is where the document overview is very helpful. So if you're now able to actually see where to click to find the exact column, you can always click here and come to the column section. And now, let's say if you want to change the number of columns, you can always go here and change it 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is also nice. So let's say a common use case of this would be, hey, these are the services we provide in 4 different sections where you have one image and then text just below it. So this is how you do it. And it also has an option of stacking and mobile. So let's say you have 4 side by side, these kind of cover blocks or image blocks, and mobile phone, obviously you don't have the width. So you just stack them one on top of each other. So that option already exists. And you can also go to the styles option, change the colors, the background. So let's say for the entire section, you want a dark gray background. This is completely possible. And then you have typography and other options as well. So even inside the columns as well, you have complete control over what you are trying to do, right? So these are interesting things that you can do. And then of course you have the options here to change alignment, vertical alignment, and some other options here as well. And inside, again, you can just type, hey, beautiful gray mountains. Oops, mountains. Now, one thing you might notice that ideally the best case scenario would be that you want to add the beautiful gray mountains in the center of the section. Now you can go into the typography, the dimensions, and add margins and padding, but that's usually a little advanced way to do things. This brings me to another nice, very useful block, which I'll just show you how to use. So I'll just add the block to an empty area first. And the block is called the spacer block. And as the name suggests, it's used to create space. So if I just type in spacer, if I click this, it just adds a blank area. And you can customize this how much you like based on how much spacing you want to create. And once again, using the document overview, I'll take the spacer and we just want the spacer to be above this paragraph because I want just the paragraph to be pushed down. So I'll just click and drag it here. And now I can just push the text around a little bit to make sure it's in the middle. So this is one, I say, easy way to space things around. And this works the same way in between blocks as well. So if I take the spacer block and just drag it somewhere above the buttons and the image here, let's say here, you can see instantly the difference or spacing between the image and the buttons increased. So let's bring it back to the paragraph block here. And now we have this. Let's save draft and go back and refresh and see now the spacing has been created. So these are some of the common blocks that we utilize inside WordPress. And once again, the list of blocks is quite extensive, but now you understand where to find any kinds of options for any kind of blocks. And usually they have a similar combination of all the properties that we've already discussed. So if I just exit and if I go here, you can see paragraph, heading, list, quotes, code, all these blocks kind of make sense what you are going to do. Now, I want to cover a couple of additional blocks before we proceed to some advanced things. The first block I want to cover is the table block, which is very, very important. Tables are usually quite useful when you are presenting tabular information. So you have a built-in table block inside WordPress. So if you click the table option, you can say, hey, how many rows do you want? How many columns do you want? So let's say I want 4 columns or 4 columns and I need 5 rows. So I can create a table instantly. And then you have fixed width table cells, header section. So you have headers here and you have the footer as well. So you have quite a flexible table where it comes to, let's say, presenting any information. So if you have, let's say, presenting some accounts, you want to have the sum total here, you can enable the footer, and you can have the fixed cells also, so that the width of the cells is entirely fixed. And inside the options here, you can have the stripes options as well. So if you want the visual identity or visual style to be striped, you can add that. Once again, you have the color and background options similar to what we've already seen. So if I go here and I say costs, I say, hey, revenue, and I say capex or something like this, just regular terms. Now I can just add numbers here. This cost was 45, the revenue was 195, oops, whatever, and then I can add something like this. So you can completely customize the table and the relevant settings. So if I go here, now you see the block width is fixed. And you can go back to the table options and click the edit table, and then you can insert rows as well, delete rows, insert columns, and customize everything. So it's not like that you create a table, you want to customize it, you have to go back and do things. So it's worthwhile to also double check what options are available inside. So if I just do this, let's say center line columns, and I just do, let's say, align center, I can change some of the things down the table. So this is how easy it is to add tables on your site. So if I go back into the block options, we have a lot of different options. We have embeds, we have themes, but it's not possible for me to cover every kind of, I'd say, block. So I'll just cover maybe one more block. For that, what I'll do is I'll just go to YouTube. I'll search for WP Beginner, and this will bring us to our channel. I'm covering how to embed things on WordPress. So let's say if I go to the video section, I want to see, let's say, this post or this video. And if I copy the link of this YouTube video, typically in the older versions of WordPress, it was quite hard, or I say you needed the embed code to embed something on WordPress. But with recent updates with the block editor specifically, all this has become quite easy to do. All you have to do usually is, if you have like any social media platforms, let's say content needs to be embedded. So let's say you have a content or video from YouTube, let's say you have a Twitter feed, or let's say a set of tweets, or maybe just a Twitter thread and an Instagram reel or any other social media platform. All you have to do is copy the link from the social media platform itself and just paste it. And once you paste it, automatically WordPress recognizes what kind of content you're posting and changes the block to a embed block for that particular section or particular social media. So if I click here, once again, I'll just give an example of, if you go to the theme sections and just scroll past it, you'll find the embeds option. So inside the embeds, all the social medias are automatically recognized by WordPress: Twitter, YouTube, WordPress, SoundCloud, Spotify, Flickr, Vimeo, Animoto, and so many different others. So if you just copy and paste a TikTok link and paste it here, it'll automatically just give you the preview here. Reddit, Pocket Cast, Spotify. So even audio content can be pasted like this. So this is how all of this works inside WordPress. Now, I want to cover one more important feature, but before that, let me just talk about some document settings that might help you navigate WordPress and the block editor faster. So if you observe the settings option, which are the button I talked about, it again has a set of 3 dotted options just next to it. So if you click on it, you'll see you have the top toolbar and some other options. Now, you don't need to understand or remember or say memorize any of this, but the top toolbar is a very useful option if I say my personal opinion. And what this does is, instead of the hover options with every single post, it transfers the options here, which in my opinion is a little cleaner way to work. And when I'm editing WordPress or editing my site, I usually keep it this way. It just makes my life easier. The second set of options that might be very helpful is learning the keyboard shortcuts. And if you click on this, you can go to the keyboard shortcuts menu here, which again has its own keyboard shortcut, which is Shift-Alt-H, at least on a Windows machine. You can click on it. This will bring you all the keyboard shortcuts on how to make changes, how to delete, how to move, how to remove links. And this can just make your life easier. And of course, the more you practice, just try to see whatever steps take you time to do on WordPress website. Maybe there's a keyboard shortcut that can help you out. So now you know how to use tons of blocks inside WordPress, how to customize them, what's the visual styles you can use, all the different options you can customize. There's a couple of additional things I want to talk about inside WordPress, which will make your life easier, especially when creating a lot of content. So let me demonstrate or give you a practical example of the first option. So I customize this button, right? I just change the text to buy my book. So in a hypothetical scenario, let's say you're selling a product, selling a book, and you created this button to actually just make this call to action where you link people to, let's say, purchase your book somewhere else. So let's say you want to add this on different areas of your website. So you start a new post and you just say, hey, okay, this is a blank new post. I want to do the same thing, right? So I can go and I'll just create a new button. I'll go to button and I'll say, buy the book, right? Because that's what it said. I'll say, buy my book. That was it. And if I go here, I can go to the styles and I can change the size. I can change the color once again. And let's find the right color once again. And we had this. Now, I did a decent job, but still you might see some differences between the styles of this button and that button, which brings me to a very useful style or option inside WordPress, which is copy paste styles. So if I click here on the three-dotted menu, just next to it, you'll see an option called copy styles. If I copy the styles, you'll see a notice here. If I go here and do this and paste styles, now you see all the styles have now been applied to this button. It's a very useful feature inside WordPress. This is the first set of features I want to talk about. The second feature, in my opinion, is even more important. And it doesn't work with every block at the moment. For example, you can't do that with button blocks for some reason, but some other blocks support it. For example, let's say I take this table block. If I take this table block and I want to add the same table in multiple areas of my website. So now this will be a little problematic because customizing a button is okay, but creating a table from scratch is quite a time-consuming task. So in this case, WordPress has a very neat feature called patterns. And patterns is, think of it as a global block. So for example, if I create this table, I can just save this as a template and just reuse it anywhere on my site. And I'll just demonstrate how this works. So I'll click the block here. And once again, I'll go to the three-dotted menu here. And you'll see you have this option called create pattern. If I click create pattern, you'll have this option here. You can say business expense table. You can also have a category. So you can say table, that's the thing, and keep this synced. And this, I'll explain what this is later. I'll create this pattern. Another pattern is created. Now you see it has a different look to it when you actually move things around. So if I go here and I have refreshed this page, let's save the draft first. And now I come here, let's say I click outside. Now I can just insert that pattern here. So if I just search for, let's hope that's right, it comes up as a new block entry. So if I just go here, similar to how I search for blocks, I can just search for that particular pattern here as well. If I click and do this, now instantly it is now done here. Now, what this does is this allows me to have the same information available in multiple areas of my website. And you can see if I click here and I say edit original, this brings me to a different interface altogether. So if I click this button and I say 22 and I update the post, if I save and I can just go back to the page. Oops, I've logged out accidentally. Oops. Right. So after logging in, you can see that now this has this here. Now if I go back here, if I save the draft here, if I refresh the page and I come here, now you see the change I made there is also available here. It's a very useful feature. So this makes this entire table completely global throughout the website. So if you change the original, everywhere this is will be changed. Now you can override this feature. For example, let's say you just like the look of this, I say the table, and you want to have the look of the table, but not the content of the table being synced around. So in that case, what you can do is I'll just create a new table just for example. You can click this and you can do the same things again. You just have to do this once. And once you customize some of the stripes options and you go and say headers and you can do XYZ, something like this. Now what you can do is if you save it as a pattern, all you have to do is change this, that this pattern is not synced. And we did a recent video about this, how you can change this. And then what will happen is the layout of the table will be saved in your WordPress library. You can paste it anywhere, but the content will be overridden and it will not be synced across all locations on your site. Now, this is a very powerful feature and might be complicated to understand at first go, but a very, very useful feature which saves you a lot of time when especially creating a lot of different pages. And this is one part where I say the most basics have been covered in this video right now. But I want to just add one more thing, or I say a couple more things that will be very, very valuable to you, is that you can have different kind of blocks added by different plugins and also by different plugins altogether, which add a lot of blocks on your site. Let me give you a demonstration. So right now we have a form, or as a plugin installed on site called WP Forms. It helps you create forms on your site. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly demonstrate this process to you so that you can understand how it works. So what I'll do is just create a new form in just a second on my WordPress website. And let's go. And I'll just do this. And I'll just name this test form. And I'll just click simple contact form. And this is not a video about WP Forms, but I'm giving an idea that you can actually create a form on the site very easily. So let's say if you already had a form on your site, if I refresh this post, okay, let's save it as draft, refresh this post. Now this WP Forms plugin that is installed on site has its own set of blocks that it's added. So now if I search for WP Forms, you'll see a new plugin, or as a new block being visible. And inside this, you can select from any of the forms that you have created. You see, I created the test form, very poor capitalization, but still, if I now open this, now you have a beautiful form added to your WordPress website easily. So there are a lot of plugins that add different sets of blocks to your website, also a different set of, blocks to your site, which add functionality. Like all-in-one SEO will add SEO related features. You can add an FAQ block. You can add a Google map listing block, a small business information block. And we've done many videos about this. So just keep your eyes open for different kinds of blocks available. And some of these plugins, or I say some plugins, are exclusively for design related options. For example, there's a popular block builder called Spectra. So if we go to Spectra on WordPress's website, let's just do it. So in this plugin, you see, you can just go to this and it just adds a new set of blocks which can help you design your page better. So if I go to here, you can see a powerful set of features. And this is not the only plugin that does this. You have a lot of different plugins that add a certain set of functionality. So the idea being that you're not limited to the default blocks inside WordPress. You also have additional functionality coming in from plugins, and you can add dedicated plugins to your site, which will add a new set of plugins or a new set of blocks, which will help you customize and design your website better. All right. So this was a simple, a short and sweet video on how to use the block editor in WordPress. Hopefully you've gotten a lot of clarity and understood a lot of things. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments. Otherwise, like, follow, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. You're watching Yuvraj from WP Beginner. I'll catch you in the next video very, very soon. Take care.